Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, A Sprinkle of Joy. My name is Danielle, and today I wanted to talk with you about meal planning. Now, meal planning is something that I've been doing since Matt and I got married, which was about 16 years ago. I know a few of my favorite bloggers and YouTubers, like Lisa, who is over on Farmhouse on Boone, says that she just doesn't meal plan, and that just blows my mind because she's a mom of 8. And more power to her for being able to just think of recipes on the fly. That is totally not me. Those of you who know me, my friends and my family, they know that I am a planner and I like things going according to plans. And if things veer off that path, I can sometimes get agitated, which I know is not a good thing, but it is definitely something that I am working on. So I kind of wanted to give you my tips and tricks of how I have improved my meal planning from when I started meal planning about 16 years ago to today. And so the first thing I think that is super important with any kind of meal plan is having a place to write down what you're going to eat. Now, I know that some people buy expensive meal planning journals that also have ways for you to write your grocery list on. But I didn't want to do that. I simply go online and I print up a calendar, blank calendar offline every month. Because I usually like to meal plan at 2 weeks at a time because I've been trying to go to the grocery store less. So I'll kind of give you a show of what my calendar looks like that I use. So it's super simple, and I get this from, it's called Printables. And that is spelled Printabulls. And they have a whole slew of different kind of calendars that you can pick out. And then my second tip, so that's my first tip. My first tip is find something that works for you for writing down your meals. Be it just a whole calendar, or if you want to do a week at a time. Way back in the day, I used to only meal plan a week at a time, and I had like a pull-off calendar that I was able to write down what we were eating. So whatever works for you, that's what you've got to do, because if it doesn't work for you, then you're not going to stick with it, and then your meal planning is just going to kind of go down the toilet. So my second piece of advice is to write down your prior engagements on your meal plan calendar. Now, I am definitely a pencil and paper type of planner and calendar. So I have like my planner, like my bullet journal that I write all of my stuff in, and all of the doctor's appointments that I have, but then I also write them on my meal plan calendar. And why do I do that? Because I know that on a day that I have a late appointment that I'm not gonna wanna come home and plan an extravagant meal. That might be one of the times where I throw a frozen leftover in, or just something that's really easy to do. So on my calendar, you can see that I have different days. Like right here, I know we had a doctor's appointments, and then I also write down when we might have some other fun things that are going on, and that just really helps me plan. So for example, on one day with my mother-in-law or my mom takes the kids for a sleepover, I know that either Matt and I will go out, or we'll probably grab a steak to eat. But then it really does help me know what I have time to make. Because if you don't know, and if you run out of time to make things, you're not gonna want to stick to the plan. And then I have my little list over here that I keep on referencing. My third tip is not to worry about couponing and trying to find the best deal. Now, I know that that may seem pretty controversial, but over the years, I used to coupon. I used to be that person who would cut out all of the little coupons out of the flyers, and I would save them. But in all honesty, it really didn't save me that much money in the end, and it was way more of a headache. So I do most of my shopping at Aldi because at one point in time, I priced out a bunch of different things, and I found that it was significantly cheaper at Aldi. So that is where I just do the bulk of my grocery shopping. Now, Matt and I purchase half a cow every year, So I don't really have to buy any ground beef or steaks or any sort of thing like that, which actually really does help. But if I were to do that, I would probably still get my meat at Aldi or perhaps at a few other stores. Now that's not to say that you can't find a good deal at other stores. For example, I know the Kroger's around here usually have a buy one, get one free chuck roast. And back in the day, I used to always get those when I was meal planning before I actually got half of our cow. But overall, I find that it just takes so much time to go through all of the ads or to look online and see where something is cheaper, because in the end, it's probably not going to be that much cheaper, and I personally don't think it's worth the headache. But if you love to coupon and to find the best deals, then I say you do you and you completely keep doing that. But for me, that is not an important part of my meal plan. And then another thing, my other tip is to make sure that you use your leftovers. Oftentimes you have leftovers and they just get stuck in the fridge, and then you forget about them, and as you're trying to see what you have left, you might go into your fridge and realize, oh, here's some spaghetti that I made 3 weeks ago. Well, that's not good. And then you just let that food go to waste. Because for me, a big part of meal planning is trying to save money. And we all know that the grocery prices have been so ridiculously expensive lately, and I really don't want to let things go to waste. So I'll show you what I do on my meal plan to make things a little bit easier. So on my meal plan, after we've completely finished a meal, I will simply just cross it off. So for example, here you can see honey butter chicken. That means that we still have some of that honey butter chicken. So Matt can bring it to work for leftovers, or I can eat it for leftovers, or we can have it as a family. Now sometimes you might not have enough leftovers for everyone for the same meal, and that's when I do what I like to call a CYOL, or a choose your own leftover meal. And then I just say, hey guys, these are all the leftovers we got, what do you want? And then I warm it up and that's what we eat. Excuse me. And if you look in some of my previous YouTube videos, you'll see that on most of them, we have at least one day that's a choose your own leftover. And I also think that, when you make a lot of big meals, for example, when Matt and I smoke a meal, we usually end up with a lot of leftovers, so we freeze them. So if that is something that you do, I highly suggest you invest in a food saver, and then you can vacuum seal meals and throw them in the freezer, and then that's an easy thing to pull out to have for later. So usually at least once a week or maybe every 2 weeks, I try to include a frozen meal on our meal plan, which helps to take the pressure off of me for planning, and then I know that it's going to be really good. Right, let's see. Another one of my things is to write down your favorite meals, your go-to meals, like a big long list. So this is what I have written down. And if you head to my blog, I am going to have this available for you to print up for free, just to download off of my blog. I'll have one that shows you all of my meals, and then I'll also have one that's just blank so you can fill it in as you wish. Now, when I plan, usually like in the spring and summer is when I really get into all the grilled and smoked meals. And then in the fall and winter, Matt and I love having soups and chilies and stews. My girls don't like that as much, but since I'm the one making the meals, we do have a lot of soups. So with my family favorites, I have it broken down into like oven baked, grilling, a crock pot, stovetop, soups and stews, and then also the Instant Pot and air fryer, which you see I don't really have any recipes that I use for that. So if you do have a favorite recipe that is either a crock pot, Instant Pot, or air fryer, please leave me a link in the comments below, because I am trying to get more meals like this. But why is this important when you meal plan? Because I will look at this list, and I would say about 80% of the meals that I feed my family are from this list. Because I know for the most part, we like them. And I know that I won't hear a lot of grumbling. Now I am trying to add more and to find new ways of cooking. So about once a week or every 2 weeks, I will make a new recipe up, either finding something on Pinterest or in one of the mini cookbooks that I have. And then I'll add that on. And if we like it, then it will get added to my list so that I have more meals to choose from. Then this also really, really helps because you don't have to think and get out all of the recipe books and all the cookbooks to see what you're gonna make. You can look at your list and you can write down what you're going to have, and then you really only need to really think about maybe 1 or 2 days a week for planning. And then also, I suggest having a what's in the freezer, at least for me, because we get half a cow. Matt and I then vacuum seal all those pieces of cow and we freeze them. And then if I see that chicken's on sale somewhere, because I do occasionally go to other stores, I will grab a bunch of chicken and then I will freeze it and I will have it. So here you can see I have my raw meat and a lot of cow and some chicken, and then any of the frozen leftovers. And for the frozen leftovers, I have included the date so I remember when we had them last. And then that also helps me when I'm trying to figure out what I want to plan for my meals. I also, one of my other tips for meal planning is to keep all of this together. So I have just a super simple little clipboard, and I will clip all of this together, just like this, and I just keep it all together right in my kitchen. So the kids know where it is, Matt knows where it is, I know where it is. So if people want to know what's for dinner, I can tell them, check out the meal plan. And I also have a scrap piece of paper that I use. So this is one of my old calendars, and I just use, when I'm done with them, I just tear them in half and use those to make my grocery list. I do know some people like to have grocery lists that are separated by like frozen or dairies or meats. But for me, it's a lot easier to write it in the order that I walk around the store in. So I know how Aldi is set up, and I know how my Kroger is set up, and I know how my Meijer is set up. So if I know that I'm gonna go to Meijer because I wanna get some things that they don't have at Aldi, then I'll make my grocery list, excuse me, in the way that Meijer is set up. And I also suggest asking your family what they want to eat. Whenever I sit down to meal plan, I always will ask my family, I said, all right, who has something they would like to see on the menu for the next 2 weeks? And usually, with the kids, it's spaghetti, hot dogs, tacos, or hamburgers. So those do get on our list a lot, but sometimes they surprise me with a meatloaf. But then you can write those on, which is less work for you to plan what you want to eat. So like I said, I am going to have these 2 printables available for you on my blog, and their link is in the comments below. And hopefully this gives you some ideas on planning and meal planning and seeing that it's really not that hard to do a meal plan. I actually do, for the most part, enjoy sitting down and figuring out what I'm gonna feed my family. And if you've ever seen any of my videos of like what we've eaten for a week, sometimes it's a lot more home cooked meals, and sometimes it's a lot of things that I've, like Prego spaghetti, or things that are a lot easier to prepare. But I do think that obviously going and getting a meal that I've made myself is probably a lot cheaper than going out and healthier than going out. Not that going out is bad, but if you're trying to save money and you really want to get into cooking, then this is a great way to meal plan. All right, now I am going to show you a little bit really quick about kind of how a typical meal planning session might go for me. And so hopefully you'll find that helpful. All right, so like I said at the beginning, I always like to print up a calendar in which I write all my meals down. I don't get anything fancy. I just go to a website called Printables, which is spelled PRINTABULLS. And they have so many free calendars that you can print up, and so you can pick whichever one you want. So here is my calendar for August. And the first thing I'm going to do is go through and write down all of the appointments and activities that we have going on, which helps me later then plan. So I'm going to do that, right? All right, so now we have all of the different activities and doctor's appointments that we have going on, so I can go ahead and start filling in what we're going to have to eat. And I like to meal plan for 2 weeks at a time because I try to only go to the grocery store for a majority of the items we have only every 2 weeks, and usually I do have to go back to get some milk, but for the most part it's been working. So I'm gonna look at my family favorites and kind of just fill in some of the areas that I know what we're going to be doing. So for example, I know that when my mom and my dad are coming, that we're gonna be having some shredded beef from the crock pot. And I decided we'll do some mashed potatoes and some salad. And I am hoping to get to a local farm to pick up some sweet corn. And then here we're having the family birthdays at our house, and I know that we're going to do some brats and dogs. And then I look, once again, what I like to do is I just like to look at like the family favorites and start filling stuff in from there. All right, so since it's the summer, on the weekends we do a lot of grilling because that's when Matt's home and it's easier for him to grill. All right, so I'm going to continue kind of filling this in, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I have filled in. All right, so I'm back and I have everything all filled in. I plan about 2 weeks at a time. So I started with this day and I planned all the way to here, and I did add a few other meals later in the week because I know that on the first MSU game we're gonna have nachos, and then on the weekend I know that we had wanted to have some shrimp and steak kebab, so I just added that in so I remembered and I didn't forget. But for the most part, all of these recipes are tried and true recipes that were from my family favorites. But we did add some new ones. So like this sirloin pinwheel is a new recipe that I'm going to try out, along with, this is somewhat new too, a round cheesesteak. So I try to keep most of my meals ones that we've had before, but I do have a goal of adding a few more new recipes into our meal mix so we can try to expand what we are eating. So now that after this is done, then it was time to make my grocery list. So I tend to just use an old piece of paper on the back, and I just use this to make my grocery list. So what I'll do is I'll go through each day and I'll see, okay, so we're gonna have shredded beef and mashed potatoes, salad, and then hopefully some corn. So I know that we have the shredded beef by using the what's in the freezer list. And then I just go through and I make sure I have the ingredients I need, and then I make my list. And I know a lot of people have like special paper that they use that break it down based on what it is. I just like to make my list based on how the grocery store is laid out. So I usually go to Aldi. So I'll make my list with how I walk through Aldi. And I'll show you my list after it's done. I won't make you sit through here and watch as I make my list. All right, so now I have gone through the 2 weeks in August that I have planned, and I have my list, and I'm ready to go to the grocery store. So like I said, I go shopping at Aldi usually, so I know the order of all the food that's in Aldi, so it always starts with like the fresh produce, and then at the end is the cold stuff and the frozens. So hopefully this helps you. Then, really quickly, I forgot to say this. After I take something out of the freezer, for example, I've already taken the 2 chuck roasts that I'm going to use to make the shredded beef. I will cross them off so that I know that I have used them. And so I know I've used the brisket since I made this, and I've used some of the chicken since I have created this list. And so I'll cross things off when I use them, and if I get more, I will add them to the list. And then eventually, if I need to, I can reprint this up and redo it. Then over here too, you have your frozen leftovers. So I'll add to that as we have more leftovers, and then I cross them off once I've used them. So my goal is to definitely get these ribs used up real soon, and to use some of the older leftovers before we start digging into the new leftovers. And once again, these 2 things, these 2 printables, will be available on my blog, and I'll have a link in the description box below that will send you, and you can have an automatic download of these. They will be blank for you, but I will also have my family favorites with all of my meals in case you need some ideas for your own family. So I hope that you have found this useful, and if you have any comments, then please don't hesitate to leave them down below. Thanks as always for watching. I greatly appreciate all of the support. Bye.